I have stated before, and let me say again, that these Zoom lectures were started primarily with the idea that over the 39 years that I got involved in aloe vera leaf gel research, it has come to my recognition that the nutrients that are found in the plant kingdom are very important in optimal diets. And in fact, it's a theory with me, and if anyone can find it published, I'd like to have a copy, that in the plant kingdom are the nutrient molecules that are present, that the incredible code in DNA or in our chromosomes that controls cellular synthesis of bioactive molecules require those nutrients that are present in the plant kingdom to properly be able to create the biochemistry and the physiology for good health. So with this, I'm going to get into some of the molecules that are in the plant kingdom and also emphasize that just saying, say, flavonoids, I believe there's hundreds of flavonoids, and each one of them are very critical in the broad spectrum of different types of bioactive molecules that the DNA makes with the little assembly line that's present in every cell to foster uh, proper nutrition and to be able to establish harmony among the cells, which long ago has been called homeostasis. And homeostasis, which is in all the cells, in all the organs, you do not have deviations from normal. So that's where we get into problems with the current legislation that is federal. It says only a FDA approved pharmaceutical drug can claim to treat, cure, mitigate, or correct an abnormal health condition. Well, the genes are programs to move the biochemistry and physiology to the normal zone or homeostasis. And these molecules that we're going to talk about, I'm just trying to get across that this is why the National Geographic Society blue zones that they have found where there's islands of great, wonderful health with longevity and good health. Nearly all of them have a garden with plant matured fruits and vegetables that have these esoteric nutrients that are made in the plant kingdom that the DNA calls for. With that, we'll go to the first slide. I dare say that time and time again, like myself, you've heard about the importance of flavonoids that are nutrient molecules made in plants and that they're important. Well, one of the things that important is that in the blue zones that the National Geographic Society has found through a series of grants to Dan Buettner, and the World Health Organization has endorsed it, that there are some common denominators in all the blue zones of longevity with good health. And one of the primary things is a high amount of plant foods and a low amount of various meats, with the exception of, say, fish. But it's important to point out you don't have to move to one of the blue zones, an isolated island or a primitive peninsula where people are living without electricity and like they did centuries ago. And the best example is the 30,000 Adventists at Loma Linda, California, which is almost a suburb of Los Angeles, because they utilize through biblical guidance for their church group that in the Bible you'll find out if you look at the areas that plant-based diet is recommended. And so what I point out is that all of a sudden one morning when I was drinking coffee, I realized since 1994, when the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act was passed, that is formally established the dietary supplement industry, that lo and behold, we've been getting various degrees of the benefits of the blue zones by adding the dietary supplements to the diet, primarily formulations built around the acetylated mannose or acemannan that was the research of Carrington Laboratories that I got involved as a consultant in 1985, now 39 years ago. Also, we have found out that if in these people that add this to their diet, if they have a exercise program, which is equivalent to just about 3 miles a week. So you may have many different things that you can do in your daily activities of your lifestyle, that the improved nutrient supply built around the aloe plant plus some exercise gets you synergism, meaning 2 plus 2 is more than 4. And just how much that is a challenge. Now, an important flavonoid is a polyphenolic, and that circle with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbons in a circle, which is the phenol structure to the right. You can see there are at least 3 of these phenol structures with hydroxys or OH's group attached to it. And it's just one of the important flavonoids, quercetin, which is gets a lot of play in the dietary supplement industry of being important to make sure that it's in your diet. Now, the papers published on quercetin started in about 1980. There were only 32 studies. By the year 2022, there was accumulated, well, in that year was published 2,020, 692 studies. And this is quite similar to the research on carbohydrates and their importance in the diet, is that for a long time, our population has been drug oriented. And that's one of the reasons for these lectures, to try to get across that the content of your diet is very important and is safe, it is effective, and it is far more economical than turning to drugs for any symptoms you have, that particular in patent. But there's been an 84-fold increase in published studies just on quercetin, one of the flavonoids that are present in plants. And you say, well, where are natural sources of quercetin that you should have in your diet? Well, they're in virtually all fruits, vegetables, and berries, particularly berries, and it's a polyphenol flavonoid, which I showed you that structure there. And cherries are a very good source of quercetin, and that's one of the ingredients in our current New Eden formulation. And that's one of the reasons that cherries are there. But they're also present if you have in your daily diet apples, various kinds of berries, dark grapes, red onions, raw broccoli, kale, and all the cruciferous vegetables have quercetin. And some of your particularly restaurants will have capers with your salmon and other things that I wondered what they were. Well, they're flower buds, and it's the capers are the highest source of quercetin. The herb dill, buckwheat, green tea has quercetin. And you can see estimations of assays to the right there, and particularly the capers are the highest by far of all the sources of this nutrient that your genes call for to make bioactive molecules that run the structure and function of the human body. Now, just offhand, the health benefits, to put in common words, is it supports the immune system against any infection. And this is part of why I say a dietary supplement is so important, because it provides a path to personal, preventive, and interventional health management. And in every cell, you have mitochondria that break the bond between carbon atoms that transfer it to phosphate molecule to run the body with adenosine triphosphate molecules. And in doing this, it produces free oxygen and loose free radicals. And quercetin binds to these free radicals that you don't want to attach to the membranes within the cell, and particularly to attach to the DNA, because the molecules in the string of DNA chains in the 46 chromosomes carry information, and any molecule that attaches to it alters the information. And the worst alteration of our genes is mutations that lead to cancer or malignancy. So we pointed out that it helps balance the soluble defensive molecules that are in the serum of the blood, that are the cytokines, interferons, chemokines. And so it supports the body's host defenses of the inflammatory support of the body to turn on against any infection. And also cells can get old and senescent, and are actually in the programming of the genes are supposed to be removed, and a stem cell brought in to differentiate, just like in the embryo, to replace this old senescent, worn out, aged cell. Well, this is called senolytic activity, and quercetin supports this senolytic activity to get old, senescent, aged cells removed from the body. And quercetin helps maintain a normal blood pressure, and it supports the metabolism of balanced glucose blood levels. So the quercetin, if you can just stop and think, grandmothers and mothers for decades have essentially said that if you eat different colors of fruits and vegetables, you can be healthy. And quercetin is one of the reasons for that empiric observation that mothers and grandmothers have made about the children, and those that are finicky eaters and those that are good eaters, and will eat all the different fruits and vegetables that are available to the family. Now, this diet selections that they found out with the blue zones of the National Geographic Society, that one of the things of the common denominators is that if you have in your diet a high instance of beans and legumes, whole grains, a variety of nuts, fish and fruit and vegetables, you tend to increase life expectancy and good health. And they estimate that doing this is worth about 8 years of good health in women and 8.8 years in men. And the big difference between these two is that women tend to eat a little bit of everything by fixing it and choosing that, whereas men's are a big group to say be meat and tater guys. And that's particularly typical of men in Texas. but you alter their diet to have these, whether you see the green arrows, they get more benefit than women because women are already getting some of these things better than men. And it points out that you see the red things, the things you want to decrease in your diet. And this is some of the common denominators that were found in the blue zones of the National Geographic Society's search. There's less red meat. You don't have to cut it out. No, just reduce it, reduce processed meats that are available in the grocery stores, decrease sweetened drinks, refined grains. And I'm surprised they've added here a decrease in eggs because in some of the diets, they point out that the eggs have all the nutrients in that little package for the next generation of chickens. And so you shouldn't have eggs every day, but you should probably have, 3 or 4 eggs a week to get some benefit. There's one common thing about dietary selections. Too much of anything is not healthy in the metabolism of our cells. There are well-documented published papers of people drinking too much water that diluted their electrolytes, and actually their heart rate stopped because they diluted the potassium so much. So you have to have fluid every day. That's very critical. But you don't over drink anything. You don't overdo anything. So that's one of the things I wanted to say about particularly this having the eggs as reduced. You shouldn't have them every day. You should have them. So these are things that were found in the blue zones that we have found out that with diet choices and combined with exercise and having a healthy lifestyle, and right there in healthy lifestyle is some things that are very important. One of the worst things that you can do to reverse the benefits of all of this is burning tobacco and sucking it into your lungs because they're up to 7,000 different volatile molecules that are vaporized by the temperature in a cigarette that your capillaries in your lungs absorb, and it goes to the different cells in your body, and they are toxins. Now, one of the very important amino acids that are made in the plant kingdom is come to the forefront that is very high in individuals that have longevity and good health is the simple amino acid taurine, Taurine. And you see the structure of this taurine, and it has a sulfur in it, just like the sulfur that's present in cruciferous vegetables. And in this representation of the molecular structure of this amino acid, the S is in the little balls to the bottom lower corner is sulfur, and the red are oxygen molecules, the gray are carbon molecules, the white are hydrogen molecules, and the blue are nitrogen. So this is a wonderful nutrient molecule to give different types of radicals that the DNA can use in cellular synthesis to make bioactive molecules. And it's been judged to be one of the nutrient molecules that are very important in longevity. Some natural sources of taurine is highest in shellfish, scallops, mussels, oysters, and clams. I would say it right quick that in oysters and clams, you want to have them cooked good. They're a terrible epidemic source for viral infections because of they with their metabolism run huge amounts of water over their membranes, and in this water and plant materials that include material from fecal dumping into rivers that go into the ocean where the oysters and clams are, that they get infected with viruses. So you don't want to have any oysters or clams unless they're cooked. Now, the animal heart is the highest in taurine, and you see this in beef, you see it in milk and eggs, and actually in algae and seaweed. And again, the previous slide said don't eat too many eggs, but it's a good source, just like you have to have water every day. It's nice to have some eggs in your diet each week. Now, another high source of taurine is liver, whether it's pork, beef, or chickens. And actually, chicken livers, which I like a whole lot better than either pork or beef liver, is the highest level of this essential amino acid. It's also present in tuna, salmon, cod, and freshwater fish. So cooking actually destroys this complex amino acid. So you don't want to overcook. So poaching the fish is much better than baking it. And this at say 350 to 400 degrees for 30 minutes to an hour can destroy your taurine. And so poaching is much better. One shouldn't forget the lecture that I have given about Pottinger's cats, that if at least 40% of the food intake is raw, the animals do much better than these cats in even the places they were kept, that they have a run that they can get out of their house, and those that had the raw food, the plants grow in the run much better because at least 40% of the food that you eat should be raw. And all of this that we're talking about reduces age-related chronic diseases and accelerated aging. Now, in the National Aging Laboratory in Arkansas, they have evaluated taurine amino acid, and I had an opportunity to present to them from a professor at the medical school in Arkansas, and hoping that they would do research on the active ingredient from the aloe vera leaf gel, the acetylated mannose. However, they told me you had to provide the research funds to do this. They wouldn't use federal funds, but some source of funding. They did the taurine effects, and they start out with egalagan worms are fed, and they lived 10 to 23% longer than controls that had no taurine in their food source. And then they moved to fruit flies, which a lot of research has been done in many universities because of the economy of using fruit flies. And the fruit flies live longer than the controls, so the amount was not given to me. Then they move up to mammals, small ones, and mice were fed taurine, and they versus the controls with no taurine in their diet. They averaged 28 months living longer, and 18 to 25% longer, up to 50 to 70 months, and their bones were more dense, and they had less body fat in the mice. And this laboratory also has small monkeys as a primate to get a little bit closer to humans. And these monkeys, the controls versus those who got the toluene, translated to humans that they lived 85% longer than if they had toluene in their diet. And of course, monkeys and humans have age-related diseases, and the toluene amino acid reduce these age-related diseases. And as you can tell from the list that I gave you, that the toluene amino acid is affordable, it's practical, and it's very available. And you should have it in your diet. And we mentioned before the ancient mother's wisdom of eat different colored fruits and vegetables as a source to good health. Now, in addition to trace materials that are present in the plant kingdom, it's inositol, which combines with the element calcium and magnesium, and then inositol 6-phosphate. Phosphates are very important in metabolism. In fact, is you can't utilize any of the saccharides unless a phosphate molecule has been added to it to elevate its energy level of that molecule by adding the phosphate. And I think of it in terms kind of like a two-wheel trailer where you have to raise it up above the ball and then let it down on the ball to clamp it to the pickup truck or car that you're going to pull it with. You have to go a little higher, and you have to have this phosphate, and this IP6 is a source of 6-phosphate molecules that are already in the organic classification of living molecules, that rather than just being one of the molecules of the composition of matter chart. And this is the structure for inositol. And I have met this professor has written a book and done incredible extensive research on inositol. There is the molecular structure. The red is the carbon atoms, and you can see the blue and the white, which are the OH groups. And each one of these OH groups react with the phosphate to be very important in the diet. And when you have calcium and magnesium and the phosphate, that everywhere you have the OH, as you can see there, you get a phosphate molecule attached to it, and also a calcium atom. And this is just pointing out the intricacies of various nutrient molecules that start out in the plant kingdom, because this is high in rice bran that you have in brown rice versus white rice. And this is, some people say, is one of the reasons Orientals have a long life. The inositol is a carbohydrate, but it has these 6-phosphate molecules added to it. And this is a abbreviation of the metabolism that this contributes in all cell organs to maximize the metabolism of these trace nutrients that are present in the plant kingdom, and how they are important to optimize good health. And this is an example that you have the cell, that you have the IP6 that the inositol from the carbohydrate takes on the calcium and phosphate molecules, and these are active in the cell in the metabolism for good health. Now, the health benefits of this is that this complex is also termed phthalate and phytic acid when it's in solution. And this is an antioxidant. In other words, it binds to free oxygen molecules, which you're more familiar with this oxygen reacting with steel to make rust of iron, or in the organic idea of making butter and other oils rancid. Well, this mitochondria in every cell is essentially a source for, if you would, excess oxygen or rusting. However, you can have in your diet this inositol from the plant, and this complex, and it binds to these free radicals so that they don't attach to the membranes. And Dr. Sham Sudin, that wrote the book, has primarily focused on how this complex in the diet reduces malignancy. And for this, he has received an awful lot of persecution from the conventional cancer treatment industry, because this is a dietary thing rather than a drug thing, which I'm trying to emphasize. And it is safe, effective, and economical if you have the foods in your diet that are good sources of this. And in addition to reducing malignancy and preventing it, it's a benefit in diabetic neuropathies, diabetic birth defects. Mothers that have diabetes have a lot of problems with pregnancy. And one of the bad things that happens in pregnancy is a neural tube defect development, which is called spina bifida. And this complex helps reduce that. Also, in individuals with poor diet selections, they get a fatty liver syndrome, which leads to chronic disease. And there's a higher incidence of depression with these chronically ill people. They also have panic disorders, and it helps reduce that. It also helps reduce seizures. And this OCD is oppositional disorder, particularly in children and some adults that just lose it and attack other people verbally and physically. And this complex decreases cholesterol and the triglycerides, which are the sources of the atherosclerotic diseases of chronic aging that lead to strokes and heart attacks. And this being in your diet helps avoid premature aging. And these experiments have been done. And I might point out that pharmaceutical companies have no interest in any normal, natural product, because you can't patent it and protect your intellectual properties. But there's not any profit in having a better diet, which we're trying to point out that is important to have a very broad selection and choices of different nutrients in your diet. Now, this sources of inositol with the complex that we point out, that rice bran, as I mentioned before, is one of the high levels of common sources, that the brown rice, that sesame seed is high, corn, it varies the amount, and wheat has some, green beans, peanuts, sunflower seeds, soybeans, English peas, and oats. All are sources that you should, in your dietary choices, have some of these things thrown in there with your general diet, and not be just a meat and taters guy and succumb to chronic diseases between, say, 55 and 70, if you would like to live longer and in good health. I might point out that in the literature that's available from the ages, longevity and good health has been a focus and desire in society for generations. And well, to summarize what we've been talking about is I've tried to get across that the process of life in cellular synthesis under the control of the code in DNA is very complex, and it can be executed, and there's abundant science to prove how complex and how these trace nutrient molecules from plants provide evidence that I say supports that these molecules present in the plant kingdom provide what is needed by the animal kingdom, by the incredible code in DNA that makes it possible through cellular synthesis to take compounds that have absolutely no properties of life, and when they're all hooked together in a process that's called polymerization, each cell is in fact just a tiny microscopic factory that is run by a biocomputer, the helix of DNA that controls how these lifeless nutrient molecules are hooked together. And behold, you have the process of life. And this is one of the things that and this 39 years of focused on the benefits of more optimal nutrition, that one has to ask the question, how in the world did this come to be? That this code in the DNA, the 4 nucleic acids, which are the same in plants and animals, are identical in their function. We won't go into the research that proves this, but I have come to the conclusion that there is no question that all this is irrefutable evidence that there is a creative, organizing, and designing power present in the universe. And I'm just showing you some of the details of the intricacy of this life process that has been given to us, that I call a primal provision and a gift of nature. Thank you.